Bonjour.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of So French, a podcast about the twists and turns, intrigues and insights to all things French.
Every 2 weeks we select the best, most interesting and fascinating of French news stories, all brought to you from our studio in the center of Paris.
This week we'll comb through the tangled French politics, loads of events going on in the last weeks, and we take a trip to space, searching for the new bright shining French star in the sky.
And we're also going to talk about facial hair, and Mo Descamps brings us a fresh French word of the day.
But let's start with French politics, because over these last 2 weeks we have seen a succession of events. It started with the centre-right primaries. Sarkozy, surprisingly thrown out of the competition even in the first round.
Yeah, by his own party. That's really interesting, because it was known that he was not very loved anymore by the French people, but now it was his own party, Les Républicains, the Republicans, that threw him out. He finished third.
Yeah, and when you listen to people, they very much voted against Sarkozy. And now he's saying he's leaving politics.
Yeah, well, that's what he said in 2012. And in French politics, you're never really dead until you're dead. But, well, let's assume that Nicolas Sarkozy is really out now.
So what happened was that François Fillon, actually, the invisible man that he started to be, that not really invisible. I mean, he used to be a prime minister here in France, but he unexpectedly actually won this primary and now became the conservative candidate to the presidential election.
Yeah. For many weeks he was not even for many months he didn't show up in the polls. Well, maybe at the third or the fourth place, but a couple of days before the primary, suddenly there was a surge in Fillon. Nobody really believed it. And then, he beat...
landslide victory.
Landslide, 60 to 40%. And Alain Juppé, another former prime minister, he had to leave the political scene as well. So it's a huge... it's not a real renewal, but at least they're cleaning up a little bit the house. I mean, François Fillon is also old. He's 61, something like that. He has been a prime minister, like you just said. And he is already in French parliament since 1981. You were not even born then, Sara.
I was.
Oh,
Actually, I was.
Hardly.
but not very old.
Yeah.
But, looking at his politics, though, not very much renewal when we look at his program. Very, very conservative program.
Very socially very conservative. He's very close to the ultra-Catholic movement. Very conservative power forces here in France, still very influent. And when it comes to economy, he is compared to Margaret Thatcher, of course.
And he does have it with great pride.
With great pride, yeah. But the difference is that Margaret Thatcher that's already 30 years ago. So, I think it's a little bit too late for Margaret Thatcher to clean up this country.
And so the French right chose their candidate, and then we saw the French president François Hollande, surprisingly, I must say, was a surprise speech at least, throwing in the towel and saying he is not going to stand in next year's election.
No, that was a big surprise. Of course, everybody was already speculating about whether François Hollande could participate in the primaries.
It was a weird situation.
It was
would
very
have been
weird.
Strange.
Yeah, very strange, because he would have had to run against his own party to show that he was still president. He was not sure that he was going to win. So he decided, I have to admit my defeat. I think it was quite honorable to do, because now he can leave politics, honorably, as the person who acknowledges his mistakes. And that's very rare in France, because people really don't acknowledge their mistakes. They prefer to continue. So that's, I think, on a personal level, it was a very brave decision. On a political level, of course, it's pretty sad that he, basically says, I didn't succeed in doing what I promised to do and I have to leave now. So he will be, interestingly enough, the polls, his admiration or his approval rating is going up since he announced that he was going to leave.
I'm sure that this will save his heritage in some way, that, from going from the president with the lowest numbers in history, with some distance, I think that this decision to actually step down without being defeated and not clinging on to power, as many others have done, would probably save his reputation when we get a couple of years ahead in time.
Yeah, I think so too. The people will remember him as an honest man, and it's the first time in history that a sitting president in France is not available for re-election because he chose so. So yeah, I think it was remarkable. There's, by the way, I don't know if you saw it. We'll put it on the website. It was a very funny video of his speech. It was made by some artists in Bordeaux, where you actually see what really happened when he gave the speech. I won't tell you what happened, but you can see it on our website. We'll put it on our website, sofrench.news. So now in the slipstream of the announcement of François Hollande stepping down, there was also Manuel Valls, the prime minister, a couple of days later, who decided to resign and to become a candidate in the primaries. He's being replaced by Bernard Cazeneuve. He's now the new prime minister. Who is this guy, Sarah?
Oh, this is the fashion. This is like the French elegancy of the French politics, I must say. Bernard Cazeneuve, former interior minister, close ally to François Hollande, and a very unsurprising decision to put him in the place of prime minister. Must say, it doesn't have much time to actually make an impact on France because it will only be for 5 months. It's the shortest serving prime minister in
French history.
Yeah, French, Fifth Republic at least.
Yeah.
But what I actually want to talk about when it comes to Cazeneuve is his fashion. He is a man with style. La classe, as we would say here in France.
Are you ironic there?
No, I'm absolutely honest.
Okay.
This man has himself said that he's inspired by Gary Grant and James Stewart. Very classic iconics, I must say. Icons. A very classic style when it comes to his clothes and his clothing. He says himself that he has a bigger wardrobe than his wife and 2 children.
Really?
Together.
Oh, wow.
And apparently it is said that, his big interest in fashion is a reason for a lot of jokes between him and François Hollande, because anyone who has seen François Hollande knows that he is quite famous for having his tie on the side or looking, drained with water and, not the classiest president, maybe.
No.
But apparently the 2 friends, they seem to have a good joke about this.
Okay, so we don't only have a new prime minister this week, but also a new fashion icon.
Definitely.
Oh.
Looking forward to see more of him, I must say. So over the last days, we have had a beautiful, magnificent pink sky over Paris. But, yeah. Stefan, beautiful is not everything. What is the reason behind
this? It's not all about looks, Sarah. The skies were beautiful. Red, yellow, blue, beautiful sunsets, beautiful sunrises. But actually, that was very bad news because that's also an effect of the very severe pollution we're currently suffering from. This week, half of the cars were not allowed to drive. Their license plates, the old license plates, were only allowed to drive on odd days, and even license plates only on even days. So, but it's still going on. The weather is still, if we're looking outside, the sky is already blue, but it's very bad. It's basically we're suffering of a pollution of very fine particles that's in the sky, but very close to the floor, actually, because it's winter, so it means it's cold, but only below 100 meters, and above 100 meters it's very warm, about 10 degrees. So there's a huge difference, and that actually acts like a blanket. So there's a huge blanket on the city, but not only in Paris, also in Lyon and the other cities in the Alps region. So that basically means that we're suffering very, very severe pollution. There's no wind. Basically the cars are to blame for this, but not only the cars, also many households in the region are still heating their houses by burning wood, and these are responsible for 88% of the fine particles in the sky. So there are 2 problems. It's the wood burning and the cars.
This is a controversial. It's a controversial decision, though, by Paris to ban cars. And there's always this discussion. Critics are always saying, "Well, it doesn't matter because pollution is not coming from Paris." But what I heard is the authorities, the air control. Air pollution authorities are clearly saying that this time it is not Polish or German factories that are spreading their pollution to France. It is really locally produced pollution.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very French. So Marine Le Pen will be very proud because we have French pollution. It's a problem. And of course, the city of Paris has been trying to reduce car traffic. But then people in the suburbs say, well, you're punishing us because we have to go to work in Paris. So it's also almost a class fight because poorer people live in the suburbs. They have to work and to get to the city. Public transportation has been, there was a huge chaos this week as well. Trains were not running. So it's the big rich city against the poor suburbs. That's also a problem. So it's also a class fight. But there's one number that's really impressive. It's that each year, 2,500 Parisians die because of the air pollution, and 48,000 in France alone. So it's a huge number of deaths. That's almost the same as the number of people who die because of alcohol problems. And yet, the minister who's in charge of this, Ségolène Royal.
Where is she?
Excellent question.
She hasn't actually come out to talk about this since the crisis began.
Yeah.
And one thing to remember, you were just recently talking about this, the heating with wood that is causing a lot of these fine particles. There was a decision from the 1st of January 2015, these kind of heating these kind of systems for heating houses were supposed to be banned, actually. But Ségolène Royal, the environmental minister of France, actually went in and took out this decision because she said it was ridiculous and unnecessary.
And now we're seeing the effects. And by the way, I know where she was. She was in Cuba.
True. She was in
What did she say there?
Very controversial indeed.
Yeah.
She was participating in the funeral for Fidel Castro. Not suffering from any pollution, though, I think.
No, but she said, positive things about Fidel Castro. So while we are suffering of the pollution, Ségolène Royal was, talking very positively about the heritage of Fidel Castro. Voilà. Now every episode of So French Mode des Camps gives you a So French word of the week. Hello, Maude.
Hi, Stefan.
And as you can hear, Maude's voice is actually suffering from the word she's talking about this week.
Well, the word of the day is the word pollution. I know it's not specifically a French word, but it has been a French issue for the past few days. The pollution was so high here in Paris region, and then in the north part of the country, that the French government actually had to organize traffic restriction to fight the pollution. So let's have a look at the origin of the word pollution. The roots are actually Latin from the word polluere, which means to get something dirty with water. And air pollution has actually been an issue for human beings for ages. According to the Science Journal, even during the prehistoric era, the ventilation of the caves was an issue because of the fires that were burning in the caves. But the actual environment pollution really appeared during the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century. The pollution became a real public issue around 1950 with different laws that were voted in the United States, like the Clean Air Act or the National Environment Policy Act. And one more event gave birth to our environment conscience. It is a picture that was taken in 1968 by an astronaut William Anders, during Apollo 8 mission. Everyone, I'm sure, has already seen this picture. It is called Earthrise. We can see on this picture the Earth and a part of the moon surface. It is beautiful, and it is actually the first time people realized how unique and how beautiful our planet is.
Well, merci beaucoup, Maud Descamps, with the word pollution.
So, Stefan, there was something that caught your attention this week, something that has to do with facial hair. And I just want to say, for those who don't know what Stefan looks like, I can tell you he has gone for the close shave hair and face.
Yeah, well, on top and a 3-day beard.
That's and 3-day beard, yes.
Yeah. I look like an egg with some hair on it.
Well, go check out pictures on Twitter or... But Stefan, there was something that caught your attention this week.
Yeah, it was actually a research this week that was released that it said that 45% of French women actually like to be seduced by men who wear beards. So a beard in this case is actually a 3-day beard like I'm wearing, or a 10-day beard, a long beard or a short beard. The 3-day beard is the most popular amongst the men wearing beards. That's about 40% of the French population. But 45% of all the women, they like to be seduced by a bearded man. I don't know, there are no numbers about men who like to be seduced by bearded men, but, well, this is the result. So beards are pretty popular.
And it's going up, right?
Yeah, it's going up.
And is this part of the hipster culture boom thing?
I think it is, actually, because 10 years ago you really didn't see bearded men or 3-day beards. That was really rare. But now, I mean, if you watch French television, for instance, there's no TV presenter that shaves anymore. So it's really fashion.
It's true, the TV station where I work, it has been like a complete beard revolution.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. It's 100% beard.
100% beard. Yeah, that's very interesting. And you also see many barbershops everywhere in Paris.
True, they're popping up a little bit everywhere.
Yeah, so
but these numbers do say, I mean, even though, I mean, the beards are up, moving upwards, 55% French women still prefer the close shave.
Yeah, that's true. 55% indeed. Well, that's good news for Gillette and Wilkinson, the producers of the razors. Because
there'll still be a market.
Yeah, there'll still be a market, but their market is going down, so they really have to change their product as well. So if you're walking around in Paris or in any other French city and you see all these men with those beards, you know why, because French women just like them. Now, we were talking about sexy men with beards, but there's one man that's very popular now in France, and he has no beard. And he's not even on Earth nowadays. Where is this guy? Who is he?
Well, this is a 30-year-old pilot, aerospace engineer, but most importantly, he's an astronaut. Thomas Pesquet, he's called. On the 19th of November, he took off to the International Space Station as part of the Proxima mission, it's called. It's the European Space Agency's program. And he has risen to become sort of a star here in France. He's very funny, actually. He's easygoing, he's young, and he's great on communication. Actually, speaking of communication, he speaks 5 languages. He speaks French, German, English, Spanish, and Russian, I think. And he's really risen to fame here in France. He's giving a weekly press conference to French media from space, where people can ask, their questions, and media gets to know what life is like in space.
Yeah, and we have an audio clip of him. It's pretty down to earth, to use a pun, what he has to do in space. Let's listen.
European Space Agency, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Monsieur, this is Thomas on board the space station. I read you loud and clear. How do you read me?
Raconte-nous quelle est la journée type dans l'ISS.
Parfois aussi, il y a aussi des pannes et des réparations. Et par exemple, on a passé une bonne partie de la journée aussi, c'était pas prévu, à réparer les toilettes qu'on cassait dès le 2e jour. Donc ça, c'était un peu la tuile. Mais en même temps, je me dis que ça arrive au début de la mission. Ça y est, on a utilisé notre quota de malchance et maintenant ça devrait marcher jusqu'à la fin.
What was he telling there, Sarah? You had to do something?
Well, he was actually asked about his normal, what he's doing during a day, and he had to fix the toilets. So, and he's not only an astronaut and a space traveler. He's also a handyman who can get down to when things need to be done. So
an astronaut and a handyman. That sounds perfect. How long will he stay there in space?
He will stay for 6 months.
Wow.
And he's a researcher, so of course his main objective is to perform scientific research up there. But at the same time, he's very active on Twitter. I invite everyone to go to his Twitter account, where he posts almost every day really beautiful images of Earth, of different cities, of meteorological phenomena. So go have a look at his Twitter account. And I must say, we all remember the Canadian astronaut.
Yeah.
Do you remember him?
Yeah.
Chris Hadfield. His name?
Playing David Bowie.
Exactly. He made a David Bowie cover, and so it looks like the next superstar in the skies.
Yeah.
Could very much be French, though.
Nice. So if you would like to follow him on Twitter, his Twitter account is @Tom with the HTHOM _Astro.
Ground control to Major Tom. Lock your Soyuz hatch.
Well, that wraps up this edition of So French. We hope you have enjoyed it. Please follow us on Twitter @SoFrenchNews. And if you have any questions or suggestions, send us an email. Our address is sofrench@sofrench.news.
And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast in iTunes or in SoundCloud. You can also find us on the TuneIn radio application. And please share the podcast with your friends. We will be back at the end of December with this year's last episode of So French. We hope you